Good afternoon. Today I'm going to talk to you about the book of Revelations and just give you a few practical highlights of what it means. And sometimes the book of Revelation can be very overwhelming and hard to understand. So I want to talk about who wrote it and why he wrote it, and what some of the things that who he was writing to. So first of all, the book starts, it was written to Jews that were really hoping for Jesus to come back. Some of them had gone through strong persecution and were really waiting for Jesus to come back and the end of their suffering. So some of them were martyrs. Some of them were having a hard time persevering in this very difficult time. And so John writes to them. And John was really on the island of Patmos, and he was writing to 7 churches, which were Ephesus, Samaria, Pergamum, Thyatira, and Sardis, and Philadelphia, and Laodicea. And many of those churches could be a picture of some of our churches today. And so I think it has a very practical application in that sense. Maybe we're not going through martyrdom in the U.S. or anything like that, but we are suffering of staying strong to our faith. I love how he starts Revelation. He says, "Because you have kept my word from patience and endurance, I will keep you from the hour of trial that is coming on the whole world to try those who dwell on the earth." And he's really talking them through the trials that went on. One of the examples that I wanted to use was Revelation 2, verse 2 and 3, which is written to the Ephesus church. And they are kind of the first church that he walks. And he kind of does this for all of the churches, is he walks through like an encouragement or something that he sees that they're doing well. And then he walks through like kind of a reproof or a warning, a rebuke for some of them, of what they're doing that he's challenging them to change. So the church of Ephesus, he says in Revelations 2:2, "I know your works and your patient endurance and how you cannot bear with those who are evil, but you have tested who call themselves apostles and are not, and have found them to be false. I know you're enduring patiently and bearing up for my names, and you have not grown weary." But then he goes on to kind of a rebuke. "But this I have against you, that you have abandoned the love you had at first. Remember, therefore, from where you have fallen, repent and do the works you did first." So I love how John writes this, because he's writing, hey, I know you've done this. I know you've patiently endured. I know that you have bared up against those that are evil. And you have tested those that have called themselves apostles and endured patiently. But this is the rebuke that he comes as, you have abandoned your first love. And you see that repeated through a lot of the churches. Like, they're doing a lot of good things, but many of them had to abandon their love for Christ. And I think this is really applicable to our church today. Like, we do a lot of good things, but not necessarily we're abandoning our first love. And then he goes on to the church in Samaria, and says, "I know," Revelations 2, verse 9, "I know your tribulation and your poverty, but you are rich, and the slander of those who say they are Jews and are not. So, but are a synagogue of Satan. Do not fear what you are about to suffer. Behold, the devil is about to throw some of you in prison, that you may be tested, and for 10 days you will have tribulation." So I feel like he's like, hey, do not fear, do not fear, do not fear. And then he goes on to tell all of the churches this. But at the end he says, He who has an ear, let him hear. So he's always telling the church to wake up and hear what the Lord is saying. Because he says, let your ears be open.